having gone through an IPO last year, like it's a substantial amount of work. There's a whole bunch of things you need to think about before you actually start that process of thinking about IPOing your company. First, you have to get a broker. And so a broker is the company that's actually going to help you raise the money. And so you're going to be raising money from high net worth individuals, but you're also going to be raising money from some funds. And the broker is the person that's going to help you connect to the high net worths, but also to the funds. And so your first step is, you got to convince the broker that you've got this great company and that you really want to take it public. And that's like the step number one. You get your broker in place and you agree on the terms of that deal. And then you're like, okay, well, what else do you need? Well, then you need to have your lawyers, you need to have your accountants. But before you do all of that, you want to actually do some prep work, and you want to have a meeting with a lawyer and say, hey, I'm thinking about IPOing my company. What are the steps that I need to actually do? So the biggest thing is making sure that your accounts are being audited. So whenever I start a company, no matter how small it is, as soon as I start getting revenue, I start thinking about having audited accounts. Because if you have audited accounts, then it means everything becomes easier if any transaction is going to happen down in the future. So if your company is going to get acquired in the future, you've got audited accounts, it makes it really easy for the acquirer to know that your financials are actually accurate and true. But if you're thinking about IPOing, you've also got audited accounts, it also makes it easier. But also if you're going through any sort of capital raising in the future, when someone's looking at putting money in, they can actually feel very comfortable in relying on what your accounts actually say. So, day one starting a company, get your accounts audited. It costs you a little bit of money, but it's the best money spent, and it makes it much more cost effective when you're going through an IPO process. So you find out audited accounts, you have your accountants in place who are actually going to help you prepare all the financial statements that you need to go through in building a prospectus. And then you're going to need your lawyers to actually help you go through the due diligence process. Now, this is like one of the most painful processes that you'll ever go through, particularly as an entrepreneur, because an entrepreneur, you just want to build a business. You want to see your business grow, you want to deal with customers, and suddenly you're actually going to be like heavily involved in some really boring stuff. But it's really important to be able to get investors on board, satisfy ASIC's requirements in Australia, and also make sure that you're going to be able to attract the right investors to your company. One of the most painful processes is this part where you actually have to do verification. And so you build this prospectus, and this is a document that's usually like, 200 pages in length. It explains everything about your company, it talks about your history, but it also talks about all the risks that are associated with your company. And every bit of line of word that you write there, you have to verify to make sure that is true and accurate. And you have to have a supporting document that verifies that actual word, that whatever you've written. And I just remember starting that process and going, this is the most painful thing that I've ever had to go through, because every single thing you got to say, well, where's the verification piece to verify that this is actually true and accurate? And so you might say that, in our instance, we own a domain name called Zoom2You. Well, okay, where's the piece of document that says that you actually own that domain name? We've over X number of deliveries being processed through the platform. Okay, well, how do we verify that? Okay, here's the database that shows all these transactions that have actually occurred. And so you can imagine doing this over a document that's 200 pages in length. It is very time consuming. You need some specialist bit of software to do that. And it takes a decent amount of time, and all you're doing for a number of weeks through that process is just doing verification. So you do all that work, you finally complete it, you've raised the money, you've gone through the verification process, you've written all the document, you've gone through the typesetting of it, so making that document look pretty. The accountants have completed all that auditing process, and then you submit it to ASIC. ASIC then review that document, and they might come back to you with any questions that they may have. And you've got to make some changes and whatnot, but in our instance, we actually didn't go through, we didn't have to make any changes. I think it's about 6 weeks from the time of submitting that document to when your actual listing date actually happens. And so during that 6-week period, like everything that you've written in that document, if anything changes inside of that your business between that period, then you actually have to go back and re-update that document. So you really want to make sure that in that period, like nothing made significant changes inside of your business, and then you just hope that between that time the markets don't crash, anything outside of your control, there's not a war that starts or anything like that, and you'll hopefully get to listing day and you'll go through the process. The other thing that then happens inside of this is that you have a lot of meetings with a lot of investors. and you meet with different investors, you explain your business, and you go through the same presentation over and over and over again. You want to make sure that you're really prepped, you're ready, you're feeling, fit and healthy through this time period. You've had lots of rest going up to this period, and you try and, in my mind, it was like removing anything else outside that's going on in your life to make your life as simple as possible. Getting extra help at home is important. Making sure that your partners and your husband or wife is aware that you're going to go through this process, and they're part of that journey through going through that as well.